me with that bullshit. You ain't really wild, you a tourist.
Hey guys, it's your girl Joe here, back at you with another video. For those of you guys who are newly subscribed, welcome. My name is Joe, and this is a channel where we have open discussions through books and film, and sometimes I do beauty, traveling, and lifestyle related videos. But for today, I'm going to do a very special video dedicated to what this month is, and that is Black History Month. So this video is just going to be a discussion asking the question of why Black History Month is so important. Before I start, I'm sorry that I look like a hot mess. I have no makeup on. My hair is looking crazy because I'm gonna go do my hair, and I'm not really the best today. I'm not feeling well, so I might not be able to keep up with the amount of energy that I usually have for these videos, so please just bear with me. First, for those of you guys who might not know what Black History Month is about, Black History Month celebrates the achievements of Black people in American history. This is actually celebrated not only here, but in Canada as well, and then in Netherlands and United Kingdom in October. Over the course of 2 centuries, the Black narrative has been written out of American history, and this has largely to do with the legacy of slavery and colonization. And so slavery began in the US in 1619 when the first influx of 30 African slaves were brought into the city of Jamestown, Virginia, and it went on until 1865 when they were emancipated. Now, this was really essential because the American economy boomed because of the free labor and mass production and growth of technology, and all these extractions of raw materials like cotton and sugar made the southern United States prosper. While the northern United States were more prosperous in terms of industrial production, they did also contribute to this slavery system by trading with the South. Enslaved Blacks were subjected as mere domestic objects and had no protective rights or liberties, and those that fought back were quickly cut down. Because of the growing economy of the South and becoming more and more independent from the North, this caused a lot of tensions of a possible split in the Union. And this is kind of what set us on the course to the outbreak of the Civil War, and then of course the emancipation of slaves that happened, like I mentioned, in 1865. In the time of Reconstruction that followed, emancipated Blacks had to find a way to establish themselves in a country where they were deemed as inhuman. Blacks were caricatured for a source of entertainment. That's just the reason why you have that caricature of Jim Crow, and they were terrorized and brutalized into silence and submission. And on top of that, they weren't provided protection from local, state, or national government. Now, this persisted all the way until World War I, when this brought out the New Negro Movement. For those of you guys who don't know what the New Negro Movement is, this was a movement where a lot of Black Americans volunteered to fight in World War I. They went overseas, they fought, and when they came back, they expected respect and they wanted the same civil rights that their comrade in arms enjoyed. Now, this planted the seeds of Black pride and, of course, set the stage for the civil rights movement that would happen nearly 3 decades later. So in 1926, 8 years after the war, American historian Carter G. Woodson created what was known as Negro Week, which was the second week of February. And 50 years later, this would be extended to what we know now as Black History Month. Now, you might be asking why the history lesson. I just wanted to provide you guys with the historical context to kind of lay the groundwork of where my argument is coming from. I wanted to show you guys the evolution of how the Negro was able to establish themselves in American society over the course of a century. But in spite of everything, there still seems to be this kind of segregation that continues to persist today. The fact that we subjugate entire histories of Black contributions and movements and figures to 1 month is absolutely preposterous. Blacks have made contributions in science, history, literature, music, technology, politics, and law. And all of these contributions are so numerous that there's no way that you can squeeze them all into 1 month. It should be implemented in our general rhetoric. Why? Because their contributions have benefited everybody. We also have this tendency to downplay the importance of these movements and how they've shaped our country in a way that we can never really go back. Since this is book 2, I'm going to use literature as a great example. you have, for instance, when you're talking about American literature, there's this separation between American literature and African American literature. Why is there a separation of the two? At the end of the day, Toni Morrison, James Baldwin, Zora Neale Hurston, Langston Hughes, Lauren Hansberry, like all these really great, amazing writers and playwrights and dramatists and all these people have contributed to the American literature. So how come they're not just implemented, just make it all American literature and just teach them all equally? Why is it that we have this separation of the two? It makes no sense unless you are saying that because of culture and because of race, they should be separated. And that doesn't really make any sense, because when you look at American literature, yeah, majority of the writers that we read are white, but the approaches that they have are quite diverse, and they have different kind of experiences. They come from different backgrounds, and there's a diversity in that. And so why is it that you have to separate African American literature from the rest? It's the same thing that can be said about Hispanic History Month. Why is it that you have Hispanic History Month separate from the rest of American history? That doesn't really make any sense. A lot of the population of people that live in this country are Hispanic, and so they make up the makeup of the American people, so therefore their history should be implemented in the general American history. I just don't understand this. It's like we have this fetish to separate everything and categorize. And what we don't realize that this does is that it subjugates people and it makes people detach from each other. We become a country of islands because everyone is subjugated to their own culture, to their own race. They believe that no one understands them, that the system is rigged against them, and therefore it's just them, and it's them against everyone else. And that's the exact thinking that causes so much racism and prejudice and ignorance that we need to break down. It does not make any sense to hold those ideologies, to continue with that rhetoric of the way that we've been teaching things for the past 20, 30, 40 years. It doesn't really make any sense. Women's literature. Why is women's literature separate from the general American white male literature? It, again, doesn't make any sense. And that's where my issue with Black History Month comes into play. Growing up, I grew up learning from my teachers, hearing them quoting white authors and reading white authors, and to the point where I was doing it so much that I got to a point where I was older, and my dad was saying, there's a lot of great Black writers as well that you can read, and you can maybe even connect to them even on a deeper level than these writers that you're reading. And I was like, at first I'm like, Dad, I mean, I don't really hear about them in school, so maybe they're not really legitimate writers, because if they were really actually legitimate, we would hear about them in school. Now, that's a horrible thing. Like, that's just the idea that I have to admit that I have to admit that as a Black woman, like, that's a horrible thing to think about, but it's true. Like, I didn't know about any of these great writers or even Caribbean writers until I got into college, guys, college. So it's just like, those are things that, why is it that we don't include that in the rhetoric? There's nothing wrong with it. I will always love Ernest Hemingway. I will always love Tennessee Williams. Those writers, those dramatists, I will always cherish them for the great work that they do. But at the same time, I want to be open to other kind of writers, from other cultures, with different approaches that they have, different experiences. It will make me see the world see what's out there in the world, compared to only seeing it through the white American lens. And so, I don't know. Let me know down below what you guys think about this. I was kind of like racking my brain about this, like, for the past couple of days, trying to figure out how I kind of wanted to structure this video. So it wasn't much of a rant, but that's kind of, I don't know if I'm making myself clear in terms of like what it is that I have, what the issue is in just devoting a month to a race that has been suffering and has been gone through so much in the past 4 centuries, and to just devote a month to celebrating them is just a preposterous idea. And it's just something that I feel like we need to change and we need to fix. Because at the time when Woodson created Negro Week, it made sense because it was a kind of way of reclaiming Black pride after World War I. And so it made sense why it was established. But for it to just be pushed into an entire month, and for us to get Martin Luther King Day and just these little spurts of little time where we can celebrate being Black when we don't feel that way majority of the time, it's just not really, I don't know. I don't find it effective, and I think that that's something that we can change. But I will say that there has been a lot of development. There's been a lot of improvement in the way, like, especially when you see films and music, they're becoming more included in, I think, this social conversation and in a lot of fields and stuff like that. But we still have this separating problem that we need to deal with. And I think that it is an issue. American history is the immigrant, is the Black, the white, the Hispanic, the Asian, the Native, the Jew, everyone that lives in this country that have given their part into making this country run is an American, and their history should be taught in the general American education. Anyway, let me know down below what you guys think about what I said. If I went on a little bit of a rant, I'm very, very sorry. And I hope that I did make that clear in this video. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.
Pay 500,000, I freaked it. I bought an 87 for the weekend.